What's up, everybody? It's Mr. Talkbox. Check it out. You need to like and subscribe. Come on and catch a motherfucker. DOA playlist. Let's get the fucking
YouTube family and YouTube world, I hope everyone is well and blessed. Before we get this thing started, I'm going to put a disclaimer out right now. There's going to be a link on the YouTube page. I'm going to probably also put it on my IG page that as I'm doing this interview, I want everybody to please go click that link and just look at that link so you guys can understand what this conversation is going to be about. And this real special brother right here who I have like sitting right here next to me and what it's all about. I really want you guys to understand. And the reason why I'm putting this disclaimer and this link out because, you know, usually I'll have somebody kind of go down and list some things. It's just, there's just so much that this brother and his partner have accomplished, especially when it comes down to 90s music and the staple they have put in the world. It's just too much to even have this brother try to name off the top of his head. So, and I'm getting ready to introduce y'all to him. I know I'm running my mouth, but this is really special to me. Dear friend, one of the greatest brothers you're gonna ever meet, most talented cat, one of the most talented cats I've ever laid my eyes on and just heard on records and do what he do. I want you guys to please welcome this dude to my playlist and to my platform and welcome him into this conversation. This is one half of the super dual production team of Tim and Bob. I have with me Bob Robinson. Y'all show him some love. Bob, come on, man.
What's up, brother? Thank you for having me, brother. Happy to be here, man. I'm honored to be here. Thank you, man. Thank you for having me. How are you today, brother?
Man, I'm good, man. I've been looking so forward to just having this conversation with you, brother. I really have, man. Man, I'm a super fan, bro. I've been a super fan for a mighty long time, and I'm sure that there's others watching that feels the same way I do. And I just thank you, man, for hanging out with me, man, for a little while, because I know, bro, you're very busy, man, and there's hundreds of places you can be right now, and I thank you for spending a little time with me, man, and kicking it with me on this platform, man. How you been, bro? How you been?
First of all, it's my pleasure to be here, man. Thank you for having me, man. I appreciate it, and all is well. I've been good, man. Happy to finally see the sun out in LA. You know, it's been cloudy here for like 2 months straight. So yeah, man. I just got back in town. I had went. I like to go visit like the mountains and stuff. Like I go up to like Yosemite and Mammoth Mountain and all that stuff. So I love going out in nature like that. So I just got back. So I'm happy to come back to some beautiful weather. And so, yeah, man, life is good, man. And I've been spending a lot of time with my son this summer. He's been out here from Atlanta. And so, yeah, I'm going to see my daughter in another couple weeks. And so, yeah, man, life is good, man.
Right on, man.
Life is good.
Bruh, I mean, dude, serious. I'm serious, man. I can't thank you enough, man, for hanging out with me today, Doc. Dude, you're a special cat, man. You guys are special dudes, and when it comes down to the history of black music, man, you guys are special, man. I mean, the things you guys have been able to achieve and accomplish, just amazing, man. I mean, you know, responsible for several 100 million records sold and Grammys and several nominations and awards, man. when I was coming up, man, I promise you, man, I used to listen to y'all's music, man, and I would just wonder, how you guys sonically got to some of the things you guys used to do in records, man. You guys created such a cold-blooded sound that was just, and it was so diverse, man, because it went from R&B, soul to pop, just straight across the board. And dude, I used to sit down and listen to your records, and I used to be like, okay, how are they getting to these sounds? It's crazy, man.
Man, you know what? It's crazy because like our main influences, like, okay, so we come from Peoria, Illinois, small town, a couple hours south of Chicago, right in between Chicago and St. Louis, right in the middle. And so in Peoria, growing up, I was born in 71, so growing up in that time, there was no urban radio. All we had was a couple KISS stations, and that was it. So we grew up listening to the Carpenters, Janis Ian, Chicago, the Eagles, Kenny Loggins. And so that's all the music that we had generally. And even more so me, because Tim's father was in a band, and they were basically like a tribute band to Earth, Wind and Fire. So Tim's dad was a musician, and so he was exposed to a lot of urban music, as soon as he came out of the womb. But my situation was different. I'm the only musician in my family, and so my dad, we couldn't listen to secular music in the house, and so growing up, that's all I had was when we rode around with my mom in her car, because she always had the radio on. But that was one of the most amazing things that she could have done for me, because I didn't even know it, but like on a subconscious level, I'm getting a master class in pop music, songwriting, song structure, radio format, because these songs that were on the radio then, Burt Bacharach, anything he did, and like these songs are still on the radio 40, 50 years later. And so basically I'm downloading a bunch of information from the moment I'm 3 years old, and like taking in information I'm not even realizing I'm taking in, and so and these are the things later in life, like 34 years later, working on artists and stuff, I reach back to that for inspiration or for influence if I want to try to get certain colors, or if I wanted the song to sound melancholy or something like that, or certain certain groups back then, especially if I'm listening mostly to pop music, guys like Ambrosia, Stephen Bishop. So all these guys that have these legendary songs, that's what I find myself reaching for. But if you pair that over a beat that got like some dopes knocking drums, and then you kind of pair that with an acoustic guitar, then next thing you know, you have this sound. It's like, wait a minute, this sounds different, but it sounds kind of familiar because the melodies almost sound like it's something that, the Beatles could sing, like the melody, like the top, like the main melody or something, so I think that was the thing that helped us to always have like a unique sound, was from where we came from. And, and I grew up in playing organ. I started playing the organ in church when I was 8 years old. And so I started early on learning about dealing with different styles of singers and vocals and improvising, follow somebody in the organ, you gotta be able to change keys on the spot. You gotta find, and so like, again, I'm getting these master classes, not even realizing it, not even realizing that the work I'm doing at 8 and 10 years old is what's preparing me for when I'm in my 20s and 30s on so many levels. And so yeah, man, that's how, in terms of early influence, that's where a lot of our sound came from. And then, by the time I was maybe 12, that's when I discovered Commission. When I discovered Commission, that was it. My life changed. Just like a lot of millions of other people, my life changed the day I heard my first Commission song. Like, that was it. And so, because I saw so many possibilities in what they were doing and like what they were able to do to like transform like my perspective of gospel music, like, and like, it was just, I could go on Commission all day, you know. By the way, I love that interview with Fred, man, and like, you know, those guys are the, I won't even go into them. Those are the guys, man. So anyway, that's where the early influence came in, man. And so, and then of course, listening to cats like you, Teddy, LA and Face, the usual suspects, LA and Face. And so, yeah, man, we always knew that the best route to go was something that had a mixture of different things. We never just wanted to do a straight up R&B song, or we never just wanted to do like a straight up hip hop song. Even if it was hip hop, it had to have something like the first hip hop project that we did was in 94, 95. It was Boys to Men remix to this song we did called Vibin'. And it was I think it was one of the first times this happened where an artist had multiple rappers on one song, because Boys Men had like an amazing budget. But on the song, it was like Method Man, Tretch from Naughty by Nature, Busta Rhymes, Old Dirty Bastard, Method Man, like all these guys rapping, you know, on this song. And these are some of the most street dudes ever. Like, you can imagine what that session was like. But all this melodic singing was on it. And it was like, at the time, it was just like, wow, that's seeing the contrast between this hip hop beat. And it was all boys men. They wanted to do something like this. They was like, man, we want to get all the street rappers right now and just put them on the song, you know, and we sing the hook and they come in and rap up. So, yeah, next thing you know, Motown was like, okay, these are the guys that we get in touch with, and that's when it was like the hottest rappers at the time. Like I said, Busta, Method Man, Tretch, you know, and that was crazy in itself. That whole experience was crazy. So we've always tried to do things where it's, you know, in terms of genre, we just, you know, landing and picking like that. And so, because sometimes the most subtle of things can make such a huge difference, you know. So yeah, that's.
You know what, Bob? You know, just listening to you talk, man, it's crazy because I get it, man. Just listening to your musical influences from, like when you were saying when you were 3 and coming up, and the Carpenters and all these musical influences, man. I get it, and because listening to, you know, you guys' music as you guys were rising as producers, and like I said, it was such a diverse. Your style was so diverse, man, and you know, your choice of colors and melodies, and it's real melodic, and it was just really dope, man. I could hear all those influences. It really does make sense, man. I'm telling you, man. I was one of those guys who used to say, man, I want to write me like something like a Tim and Bob. Tim and Bob.
Oh, what?
I promise you, man. But I could never do it, man. I got some stuff right now, bro, you will never hear ever in your life, man.
Man, send it to me, man.
I don't think so, dog.
Yeah, let me check it out. Check it out, man.
Man, dude, I'm telling you, man. I was like, man, what would they do with this, man? So I'm like, but man, just like I said, just growing up, man, just coming up like like everybody else, man, was a complete just, you know, fan of what you guys did, man. Let's talk about, and once again, I'm gonna say this again. There's gonna be a link on this YouTube that everybody, as we're talking, please just go check the link out, and if you don't do it now, do it afterwards, so you can really understand how special and how meaningful this brother is to music, especially to everybody's missing 90s music. Everybody wants it. Everybody's missing it. And so Bob, let's talk about R&B music, man.
Okay.
You know, there's this big thing that's, you know, R&B is dead, R&B is not dead, R&B is dead, R&B is not dead, bring R&B back. What happened to R&B? And I get it, man. And we both know that there's good music out there that's just not being exposed, period. There's some great music out there that for music lovers, you just got to go find it. You may not hear it on your radio, you may not hear it on your TV, you may not hear it on mainstream streaming networks, but there's some good music out there. But let's just talk about mainstream commercial music, Bob, the way you guys did it, man. And what is your take, man, on where R&B music is, you know, versus, you know, now versus then? What's your take on it, man? And I'm asking you this because, man, when I say that you're the epiphany, man, of you and your partner Tim, and you guys were right there with L.A. Babyface, man, Jam and Lewis, and the other great ones. You guys were right there with making such big records, man, and establishing, creating such a big part of that 90s sound. Man, give me your take on where it is right now and what's your feeling about it?
No, it's interesting. I think it's kind of like for the old school guys like us, or for like the newer generation, like, you know, with my kids, you know, my son is 24 and my daughter is 22. But like, so what they would listen to, I would say it's an opportunity for us to be more open-minded, I think, and be more encouraging to the younger generation to continue bringing creativity to the forefront and expanding as human beings, number one, and as creatives. You know, that being said, sometimes I do hear some things on the radio and I'm like, and I think back to songs like, you know, when Any Heartbreak came out, and like how it was real music, or it was like, but what's interesting is to the kids today, you know, this is real music, like what's going on, whether it's, you know, her, or whether it's Chris Brown, or whether it's, you know, some of the newer people, the newer artists, Jacquees and these type of artists, you know. I just try to because I definitely have had those moments where I was like for instance, I hated on initially, like when trap music first came out, I was like, because I was, in terms of hip hop, 90s hip hop is just the best era, period, for me. 90s, you know, that era was the best hip hop for me. But I found ways to appreciate what guys like Metro Boomin is doing, or what guys like Mike Will made. All these guys, like, I've actually, like, I've grown to appreciate it and like and learn from it in a lot of ways. Like, you know, some of these hip hop albums that come out, like Young Thug album or Gunna, these guys, but I'm a Tribe Called Quest fan, like, because that was like, they actually had music in there. And so, but to get back to your question, with R&B, I think there's a lot. I think there's a lot to learn still. Even me, like, I listen to a lot of Alex Isley. I think she's brilliant, and so I was actually supposed to work with her right before COVID hit, and then that kind of threw everything off. But artists like Alex Isley or she's brilliant. You know, of course. You know, I think, and what I like to think about in these situations is, okay, if I feel it's a certain way, what could I do? What could I create to change that? And I kind of use that as a template, like, okay, if I think this, how could I come up with something now that would be appealing to them, but also be appealing to guys from my era? So I kind of use that to challenge myself. in terms of being creative. And so, but again, I try to stay open-minded, because I remember when Pro Tools first came out, me and Tim was anti-Pro Tools for years. We just like, nah, we gotta have tape. No, we gotta go with 2-inch tape. No, it took years and years for us to get on board with it. And finally, we ended up getting on board with it. We went analog as long as we could, and so there's just things that I can't appreciate, but sometimes I will say things do kind of sonically may feel redundant, or you kind of feel like everyone uses the same drum kit in every single song, or everyone, I think the talent is still there. I think it's different now, because back then it was more about building a whole album, or like they would stretch the first single for the first 2 or 3 months at least back then when you was working an album. Then you go to the second single, you halfway through the year on your second single. But now it's like they put out 3 or 4 singles in the first couple of weeks. It's like, but there's a lot of good things that come out too. So I just continue to try to remain a student and kind of humble myself about the whole thing, and kind of say, okay, they're just, they're just trying to express themselves. Like, how can I be an example for them? Or how can I, when a lot of these young cats may hit me up for advice or something more, or I just try to give them, whatever insight that I have, but I also try to learn from them as well, And so yeah, that's how I think I approach that. What's going on with R&B now? I think there's always room to grow.
So basically, it's a new culture. It's a completely different culture, and I get that, and I appreciate that. And you're right. There's an art form too. What this new millennials doing, it's really an art form. It's not necessarily the way we used to create our art, but there's very much an art form to what it is they're doing. And I think one of the issues is, there's still a disconnect with the young and the old, and I think one of the problems is, the older generation, we tend to the first thing come out the mouths is, man, y'all too young, y'all don't know nothing about this, y'all don't know nothing about, like, for example, you don't know nothing about tape. I do. Tape was the man. So and instead of like having the beautiful spirit, how you just laid it out, of understanding, man, and love, and not down them, because your kids, my kids, the same way. Your kids, that's what they listen to. The beautiful thing with, is that, and I'm sure, well, with me, my kids love it, but the beautiful thing is, my kids also know the difference between a great song and a song that's just here for the moment. It still could be a big hit, but it's not here to stay. Just like you just mentioned, those songs that's still living from way back then, right? That's going to live. Like, man, later for that, songs you guys have, they're going to live, man. They're going to live man, I promise you. And I'm telling everybody again, please go, if you can't find that link, please Google, Tim Kelly and Bob Robinson, Tim and Bob, and please go look at these guys. You guys got records, man, to be so young, and you guys caught it at the wave. You guys were doing it at the time when a single could ride out for 6 months, or a single could ride out for 9 months. Or, you dig what I'm saying? Right now, you're right, man. It's a singles market, so singles is just coming and going. So I love how you put it out there. I have a good friend, man, who calls it, it's a difference between a steak and a hamburger. A steak you can eat 2 or 3 days later and it's still gonna taste good. A hamburger is only gonna be good for once it get cold, you can't eat it.
Wow, that's a great analogy.
That's my dude, the great J. King. That's his thing. But so basically, it's gonna be a hit, but it's gonna be a hit for a minute. But the steak, y'all got a bunch of steaks out there, Doc. Y'all
thank you, man. I appreciate that, man. You know what's actually really cool it kind of ties your last question in with what we're talking about now. Is like So Into You, for example. That song is big. When it came out in I think because it recently was the 25th anniversary, so it came out I think in '98, and so and it went number one for I think 4 weeks on not the Hot 100, but on the R&B chart. It went number one for 4 weeks, and then that was it kind of like gradually it didn't like die off, but it just kind of it would be on the statements every now and then that it was still getting played on like the recurring airplay stations. But now it's like my publisher told me last year, said, that's the biggest song in your catalog right now. I said, really? Because I just assumed that Thong Song had been the biggest song in my catalog. But she informed me that it's actually So Into You. And so then I go online and because how you look at all your stuff online, and I'm like, wow, this is crazy because, with people redoing it and, the guy, the Jack Ross guy redid it, and then that, man, and it's like, it's crazy. It's good to see this newer generation embracing that song and people like using it in their songs and sampling it and, like the guy that like when Pop Smoke did it, the rapper that was unfortunately killed, he did a version of So Into You, and then when Fabulous did it, back in the early 2000s. So it's like people been consistently covering the song and sampling the song. So that's very rewarding to see. Or with a couple other songs that we did, people sampling them and stuff, and like Chris Brown with They Don't Know, he sampled They Don't Know, and a few other people had sampling the songs and stuff. And so that part is really cool that it's still resonating. These, songs are still resonating with people 20, 30 years later, which is, of course, it's something that we always, dreamed of happening, because we know how those songs that we would hear on the radio would still affect us years later. So I think we just kind of really just try to use those same formulas they use.
Well, man, it was
pretty much to simplicity.
But just absolutely just great. Like I said, diverse, man. They're just, They Don't Know is one of my jams, man.
Oh, thank you.
That was one of my jams, man. I used to bump that all the time. I mean, so many, man. All the Case records and all the Bobby Valentino records, man.
Oh, wow. Thank you, man.
Man, dude. But you know what I didn't know, man? I'm just finding out that I did not know you guys did Get It Up on TLC, man. I did not know you guys did that record, man.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was literally like within like the first couple of days after Dallas signed us. And he was like, yeah, I got this remix, man. Y'all want to do this remix? It's old song from the time. And it was for the Poetic Justice soundtrack. And it was like, yeah, put us in, coach. We was just like, we was ready to work. And so, we did that. And we just didn't think nothing. I don't know. We didn't expect it to come out that soon, because that's the first song that we ever did that got on the chart, that's actually ever charted, was Get It Up. And the first song that we ever did that like came on the radio was because, and this was work that Dallas literally had us do probably in the first couple of weeks we were signing him. But he was kind of like out of the mood of working because Dallas was about to produce with this guy named Randy Rand. I know you already know who Randy Rand is, yeah. So when Randy Rand was killed, Dallas literally took like probably a good 2 years off. And he was like, man, I got all these projects. I'm just not in a place to do it right now, because they were about to become a producing team. And so Randy Rand got killed. And then like a month later, we show up at Dallas' doorstep. Hey, man, we trying to, it wasn't that simple, actually. The story wasn't that simple, but but Randy had just gotten killed, and so Dallas was like, man, y'all actually couldn't come at a better time. And so yeah, he's like, I got Hall & Oates, I got TLC new album, I got Boyz II Men new album, I got Usher, I got, dude, he's just naming all these projects. I got Tina Turner. And so the other thing he had us do was the Tina Turner, a remix for I Don't Want to Fight from the What's Love Got to Do With It film. And so we did that remix. And again, you know, we kind of, I think we did it in one night, whatever, knocked it out. And so we're just like, what else you want to do? What else? And so next thing we know, maybe a month later, Tim's mom called us. It was like 10:30 at night. She called us and said, hey, is this the song you guys did? The Tina Turner? And she put it to the speaker. And it was a remix we had did, because she was called us from Peoria, you know, back in Illinois. So that was our first time actually hearing a song that we did on the radio, was I Don't Want to Fight from Tina Turner. And it was the remix. It wasn't the original recording, but it was the remix. So that, and then when Get It Up came out, those were like the first two things that came out. And I think the next thing that Dallas had us do, Eric Sermon from EPMD, the rapper Eric Sermon, he had just worked on a solo album. And so he was like, man, yeah, let me put these guys on. So we did a song with Eric Sermon. And so yeah, man, that's how, that was like the first few weeks of us being signed, was like.
You know what's crazy, Bob? So the Get It Up record, the reason why I'm tripping on it so hard, because I didn't know y'all did that record, and I spent, I don't know, the Crazy Sexy Cool tour. You know, I played bass on that tour.
Nice.
So I was playing your record, man.
What? Wait a minute, I didn't know you was on that.
I was Crazy Sexy Cool tour, man, and I'm like, whoever did this put foot in it. And man, I'm gonna tell you something. Real quick story. We were rehearsing in LA, I want to say at Third Encore, and we were rehearsing, man, and we were rocking out on Get It Up. Chili comes in with Prince to the studio while we get, and you know, Chucky Booker was the musical director, so you know it was crazy. Chucky was
Chucky was MD. Wow,
Chucky was MD. So man, we playing Get It Up, and I mean, we going in.
I bet y'all killed it.
It was, and then not only that, I played it. You know, I did a run with the time, but okay. I was playing. I did not know that y'all produced that record, man, because that was a whole nother side of y'all. And then the other thing is, that was on the Poetic Justice record that I did a song on Tony called "Waiting for You" on the same record, on the same. But I didn't realize that y'all had did that record, man, up until just recently. I said,
are you serious?
I promise you, man. I said, man, I can't believe these guys did this record, man. We got to talk about that. we got to talk, because y'all nailed it, man. Y'all really elevated that record and modernized that record, man. It was so dope. Great job on that record, man.
Oh, thank you, man. Like, it was crazy because we was so green. Like when we came in, like we was, man.
Wow.
So that coming from you, I really appreciate that, man. Really appreciate that, brother.
Man, and then, you know, later on, man, we end up on the same project, man, working on the Bobby Brown Forever record. And I remember working at Bosstown, and
yes.
You know, and you guys were in the big room, and I don't know, man, you guys let me use your Moog or something, man. It was already plugged in, so we was coming in after y'all.
Wow.
And when that record came out, man, I said, okay, my records is okay, but these Jokers records are killing.
No, one of the ones you did on there is one of my favorite joints from your catalog.
Oh man.
She's my only lady. Oh,
she's all I need.
Love that joint.
Oh man. Oh man.
How many times I've ridden around with that song on repeat recently? Like, such a great song, man.
Wow, man.
And for Bobby too. Like, that song for Bobby, I felt that was one of his most special records, man. You know, that's just me personally.
Wow.
And like, I remember when Nate first played. You remember Nate? That
of
man,
course, man. Nate Smith,
yeah,
man.
Nate
Absolutely.
was, I don't know if you noticed, but Nate managed us the whole time we lived in Atlanta.
I remember that. I remember that.
Yeah, so Nate played it in the studio one day. We was like, what? Hold on. Go back on there, Nate, go back. We made him play that like 10 times one night.
Wow.
Love that record, man.
Wow. That's crazy,
yeah,
man.
That's one of my favorite joints from you right there.
Wow, man. Wow. That's crazy. I appreciate that, man. I really
love that.
Now, Bob, so you guys moved from Illinois to Atlanta. How long did you stay in Atlanta before you relocated to LA?
Okay. So this is how we end up in Atlanta. I'll try to make it as quick as
man, take your time, bro. Take your time.
Okay, so when I was 18, I got a great opportunity because I started playing, like I said, I started playing organ when I was 8. So by the time I was 18, I had an amazing opportunity because when I turned 17, my dad got called to pastor a church in upstate New York. And so, but this is at the time where me and Tim really first meeting each other, and like we had our church band. That it's funny because we thought we was commissioned. We had our church band, and so we built in our group, and so I didn't even want to go. And right before my dad left, me and him had this huge argument. So I ended up not leaving initially. And so when I finally did go, I went up to New York, and they had like their like state convention for the church or whatever. And this preacher approached me afterwards, like, "Hey man, I want to bring you to Detroit." And I didn't think it was serious, but he was dead serious. And this was like when I first moved with my parents in New York. And so, long story short, it's Aretha Franklin's father's church, and he had just passed maybe a year or two before. And so this was the new pastor coming in, Pastor Bob Smith, and so and he's still pastor of the church to this day. So yeah, shout out to New Bethel in Detroit. And so anyway, this is like the original, like Aretha Franklin's father was like, for people that don't know, he was like the T.D. Jakes of the 60s and 70s. He was like the first mega church. He was among the first to do it like at that scale. The great
Reverend C.L. Franklin.
Yep. Every preacher knows who C.L. Franklin is.
Absolutely.
So anyway, my dad is like, "Oh man, it's a chance of a lifetime. You got to do it." And my mom was like, "No," because Detroit was like the murder capital of the world at the time, I think. And it was, Detroit grew me up very, very quickly. And so I'm coming from this small town and moved to Detroit. After about a year living in Detroit, I met these people that owned a studio called Sound Suite, which was a lot of hit records and Motown stuff was done in Detroit back in the 70s and stuff. So meet these people, they moved Tim up, at first they kind of made it look like, and bless their heart, they make it look like, it was really popping, but it actually really wasn't. So I left the pastor's home. He lived in this beautiful mansion. So I left his home and we staying in these people let us stay in the basement of their apartment. The first day we stayed there is furnished, everything's laid out. I was like, man, this is gonna be dope. We didn't know that all the stuff in the apartment didn't belong to them. It belonged to someone that hadn't picked it up yet. So long story short, the next year and a half, 2 years, we slept on a cement floor in Detroit. And so, and I was making good money at the church, but all the money that I was making was going to my car payment because my sister was nice enough to let me use her brand new, she had like a Toyota Cresta, but it was super expensive. So the insurance was more than the car kind of thing. And so all the money I was making was going to this car. So most days we didn't even eat. We probably ate 3 days a week when living in Detroit. Fast forward, after about a year, Tim ended up going back. I ended up going back. And then one day, we were just sitting at Tim's crib watching BT. It was just New Year's Eve going into New Year's from 92 going into 93. We said, man, let's just go to Atlanta. Because we knew Dallas had put out a thing in Right On Magazine and he was looking for music producers. We were like, let's just go to Atlanta. Because while we were in Detroit, we built up a very extensive music catalog because we had access to the studio. And so we were prepared. So we went to Atlanta. The crazy thing is we didn't have any money. Tim got like $100 from his mom. I got like $100 from my uncle. We went down there with $100 each. But we didn't care though. You know, we had went through so much in Detroit. We was like, if it don't work out, we'll get back somehow. We'll figure it out. And so, you know, because like I said, we went through so much in Detroit alone. Going to Atlanta was nothing. So we went down there, and sure enough, we get there. We have no money. So the first thing we do, because again, it's New Year's Eve going into New Year's. So everybody's out about to go party and stuff. It's like 9, 10 o'clock at night. So we stop in a hotel at a payphone. I called my mom. My mom think I'm still in Detroit. She don't even know I'm in Atlanta. It's like, Mom, it's gonna sound crazy. I'm no longer in Detroit. I'm in Atlanta. She's like, wait a minute. What happened? What's going on with you? So I was like, it's okay. I'm fine. I just want you to know that I'm just following what I believe. You know, I don't, you know, I just want you to know that I'm fine and I'm going to be okay. And I'll keep you posted on what's going on with me. And so she's like, please come on, just begging me to come home. I was like, no, I'm going to be okay. While we're on the phone, this guy comes up behind us like, wait a minute, what y'all doing here, man? We turn around, it's a friend of ours from Detroit, Paul Hill. His name's Paul Hill. Paul was from the Funkadelics. He used to come up to the studio. We would do demos together. He was background singer with George Clinton. It's like, wait, what y'all doing here, man? It's like, man, we trying to meet Dallas. He said, I'm working in the studio. It's like, you working in Dallas studio? It's like, yes. Where y'all staying at? We said, we ain't got nowhere to stay, man. So for the next 2 weeks, we stayed in his hotel, slept on his floor. Because him and his girlfriend had a hotel room, but Paul convinced her, like, well, we got to let these guys, like, they're on the brink of something big. We got to just help these guys. Thank God they did, because at the very last day, because we just could not meet Dallas. We go down there, security guys, because you got to think, this was before everything was popping in Atlanta. It was just Dallas and Jermaine. So getting in Dallas studio was like getting in the White House. And so finally, the last day of Paul's session, he was like, man, we're going to try it one more time, man. We drive down to the studio. Dallas is coming out. Paul's like, there he is right there. Paul jumps out the car. Hey, Dallas. Hey, man, these cats drove up all the way from Illinois. They want to meet you, man. They got dope music. You got to hear their music. It's like, all right, tell them go in there and talk to Dave, and I'll be back. Dave was, Dave Gates. That was Dallas' right-hand man. Shout out to Dave Gates, because he was very critical in us having a career. So we get into the studio, and their security's super tight, and, this is the funniest part of the story. And anybody know Tim? No, Tim is a very talkative guy. He's opposite me. I'm like introverted. Tim's very extroverted. So Tim is talking to somebody in the entrance of the studio and saying that, basically I had met Dallas before, but he probably doesn't remember it because he might have been a little high when I met him because, Dallas was smoking a lot of weed when I met him. So what Tim didn't know was Dallas' brother was on the phone sitting next to the security guy. He was like, hey, man, let me call you back. So then next thing you know, he was like, he was like, hey, what you just say about Dallas? And I'm like, oh my God. We done ruined it. And Tim was saying like, nah, man, I'm just saying that, Dallas, he might not remember meeting me because, I think he was a little, had a little, when he met me, I said, I ain't trying to talk about it, man. Do you know Dallas? Like, he literally was ready to put hands on Tim. Come to find out, that was Tim. That was Dallas's big brother, Claude. And so anyway, right in the midst of all this, because I'm like, hey, Tim, let's go, man. I was ready to throw in the towel. I was like, Tim, come on, seriously, let's go, man. We done ruined it. Let's go. I'm walking out the door, and then Dave comes out. Hey, yeah, who's these producers out here I'm supposed to meet with? And we was like, yeah, that's us. So we were literally about to walk out the door and drive back to Peoria. And so we get inside, and then Tim was like, hey, man, I wasn't trying to, be rude or nothing. I said, I really didn't mean any harm. And Tim didn't mean any harm. It's like, but, so he told him what happened. And Dave was like, that's Dallas' brother. He just super protective. Nah, you good. And so then, anyway, we go in, and Dave was like, okay, I'm going to give y'all 2 chances. Y'all gonna play 2 songs for Dallas, and that's it. That's all I can give y'all, man. That's just how it is. Don't play no slow songs. We don't listen to slow songs around here. We was like, excuse me? Y'all don't listen to slow? He's like, nah, we don't listen to slow songs around here. It was like, whoa. But we were prepared to play other, music. By this time, Dallas is back in the studio. And so He's like, all right, go ahead and play the first one. So we played the first song, and then Dave come and sits in between us. So Dave was like, okay, if you don't nod his head in the first couple seconds, man, I'm gonna go straight to the next one. If you don't nod his head on that one, that's it, man. I'm just gonna tell you straight up. She was like, all right. So we played the first song, and it was one of those tracks. We had like a whole, collection of songs we did paying homage to Dallas. Dallas was on fire, especially at that time. So we did some songs that sound very Dallas Austin-like. So the first song was playing, and Dallas is like, he's just hanging out playing cards with some people in like a little circle. So sure enough, 10 seconds into the song, Dallas was like, you could just see him nod his head a little bit across the room. So then Dave sitting between us like, okay, this is good, this is a good sign. And so next thing you know, he's like, all right, go to the next one. Goes to the next one. The same thing, like after about 10 seconds, Dallas was like, so they kind of like look over and like, hey, who is these cats? And so then that's when, we went in another room, and he was like, man, your cats is dope, man. I got to go to New York for the weekend, but I tell you what, let me see what y'all come up with by the time I get back. So this was on a Thursday night. He's like, I'll be back Monday evening. It's like, all right, cool. We did like 40 tracks. We literally didn't go to sleep. We did 40 tracks. I mean, full on changes, modulations, full song, not the vocals, but just the tracks. And so Dallas come back that Monday, and we pressed play, and his engineer was there through the whole weekend. So it was like, you couldn't act like, you basically couldn't lie and say you did something you really didn't do it, because his engineer's sitting there, doing the whole session. So Dallas listened to song after song, and he was like, man, they did all this over the weekend. And the engineer's like, yeah. It's like, wow. So then that's when he took us in another room. He was like, yeah, man, I got a lot of projects, man. I got Hall & Oates. I got Lionel Richie. I got TLC new album. I got Boys II Men new album. Y'all can do it all if y'all want. It was like, what? Now, mind you, there's two kids from Peoria, Illinois, man. And so it's like, so then this is one like my favorite part of the story right here is once he realized he wanted to sign us and everything, they start taking all the information and everything. He said, all right, I want y'all to write down every bill that you guys have. It was like, ugh. I personally had so many bills because for a short period of time I lived with Tim and his family. Remember the part of the story I said me and my dad fell out right when he was moving to New York? So I moved in. Tim's family was nice enough. They said, come stay with us, till you figure everything out. Well, while I stayed there, I got in an accident in Tim's sister's car. And it was completely my fault. And it totaled her car. It was like a 4-car accident. So back then it was like, this is back in the early 90s. It was like $35,000 in damage. That's like over $100,000. It was a huge thing. And I was so like, and his dad was really understanding, and so I'm like, oh my God, there's no way I can put this on this list. And so he gave us a little privacy. So I'm like, hey man, I can't do it. He's like, I know I got a lot of stuff too, man. This, that. So Dallas come back in. He was like, no, put everything you owe, put it on the list. Just put it on the list. So we writing this list. Oh man, as you can imagine, we're not wanting to get like, oh man, y'all got too many liabilities, He came in and took the list and he walked out. And so it was like, the next morning he came in and he gave me a check and he gave Tim a check. He said, yeah, go take care of all that. And it changed our life right then and there. Like, literally changed our life, changed our family's lives. And, everything that we had did up to that point, all the sleeping on the concrete floor in Detroit, and a lot of things we had to endure that people don't even know. Like, how we ate in Detroit. Detroit at the time had this special 2 double cheeseburgers for $2. Every day we woke up looking around the streets in our neighborhood for $2. Because we knew we got $2, we'd each have a double cheeseburger that day. Like, we shared, this is gonna sound gross. We shared a toothbrush, bro. The reason why we shared a toothbrush, because going to buy another toothbrush, that was a meal. I use a toothbrush, wash it out. Hey, you use it. You wash it out. Nah, we sharing this toothbrush. That's a meal. That's the kind of dedication we had. But none of our families knew, because we didn't want nobody to come in and y'all need to let that dream go. Oh, y'all shouldn't try to pursue this. This is crazy. Y'all don't need to live like this. We never told a soul. My family was fine. Tim's family was fine. Tim's dad was the top barber in our town. So both of our families were well off. We were fine, but we still never told anyone. My sister heard this story for the first time last year. And that's because I did a panel somewhere and she heard it. And she came up to me with tears in her eyes. She's like, I didn't know you went through that. And so yeah, that's what, and we never, ever had a negative conversation like, hey, this ain't working out. We laughed our way through so much stuff, man. And so when Dallas did that, it was all worth it, man. In that moment, it was all worth it. All the work Tim had put in and, in his personal life before we met, all the work I had put in, all those days, all my friends outside playing and I'm inside on the piano trying to figure out these chords that Mike Brooks did in this commission song, And so when Dallas did that, it was worth it, man. And then it was like, wait a minute. So now this is what we get to do, and we actually love to do it. This isn't even work, And so that's how we got to Atlanta, man. And I like to give all those details to hopefully encourage somebody, because so much can happen, can change for you. Just believing that it's going to change, and so yeah, man. Thank you, brother. Thank you, man.
Bob, I'm telling you, man, you just messed me up, man. Just a phenomenal story, and this is what I envision, just having a platform, man, so we could hear this kind of detailed information, and when they go and see where you are now, they're going to really appreciate it, because, man, your spirit comes through this screen, man, it's just beautiful, man, and just a real genuine dude, and man, so everything, man, even more so now, man, your story is kind of a mirror of my story, man. I'll share it with you someday, man. It's really crazy. Wow. But it's phenomenal, man. And so you spent all that time in Atlanta, then you moved back to, you decide afterwards, did you go back to did you move to LA? Had you lived in LA before?
How we actually ended up in LA. It's funny because we had never been to LA. This is really funny. When we was working with Boys and Men a lot, it got to a point where we did the 2 album and then we did the remix album. And so we were doing a lot of remixes. And so we had went to, that's what it was. I'm sorry. We were working on the 2 album and we were in Reno, Nevada. And so one day the guys came in the studio, was like, hey, we going to LA when we leave here. Because we had worked a lot of different places with them, like down in Florida. We worked in New York, we worked in Boston, Philly, on that 2 album. And so they came in one day, it was like, yeah, we're going to go to LA tomorrow. I was like, we don't go to LA, man. It's like, y'all never been to LA? It was like, nah, the earthquakes, man. We cool on LA. I was like, man, y'all crazy. And come on, y'all going to LA tomorrow. So anyway, we go to LA. True story, man. We get there on a Sunday. And so during that day, we're riding around and just seeing all the sights. Because, before you come to LA, you don't really realize all the mountains and stuff. Especially where I lived in the Midwest, it's flat. It's completely flat. I had never been to the West Coast. So we ride around man, it's beautiful out here. I can't believe we just not coming out here. Wow, LA. So we just tripping out the whole day, right? That night, me and Wanye went out to this bar or whatever, just hanging out or whatever. He's like, yeah, let's just go out, check out the scene a little bit. Come back to the hotel from that. So it's like typical time when a nightclub let out, 2 a.m., 3 a.m., whatever, right? Man, next thing you know, it's the middle of the night. The biggest earthquake I want to say United States history happened that night, the first night that we stayed in LA. The Northridge quake.
I was there.
Northridge of 94 or 95.
I was there.
Was you in town?
I was in town. I was there. Yep. I was there.
Wow. I'm gonna tell you where we were staying at. We were staying at the La Montrose.
I know exactly where you were.
Remember where the La Montrose?
I know exactly where you were.
It's still there, actually.
Yeah, that earthquake was huge. Chucky Booker was living in Northridge at that time, so I was really worried about him. Yeah, I was living in Inglewood. That earthquake was huge. Threw me out the bed, dude.
Right, and you remember it was in the middle of the night, like 4 in the morning.
Yep.
5 in the morning.
Yep. Absolutely, man. Wow. So you.
That was our first trip to LA. Now, mind you, we had turned down work and everything. Like, nah, if y'all don't work with us, we'll work in Atlanta or we'll work in New York. We literally didn't work in LA for like the first 3 years of our career. Our first night there, and it's because of we had a fear of earthquakes. So the first night there, experienced the biggest earthquake ever.
Wow, man, that's incredible, man. Well,
that's crazy.
That's horrible, man.
But that's what. So. And then after that, we went back immediately once everything opened back up. We left LA, whatever. But what actually how we ended up moving here was we were doing a lot of business with DreamWorks at the time. So that's when they had first gotten into the music industry, and it was through publishing. Because after our contract with Dallas expired, we did our first publishing deal with DreamWorks, and we did a label situation, and we did like a song deal. So they was like throwing everything at us, doing a lot of work at us and stuff. So we were staying in hotels initially, 2-3 months at a time. So finally I was like, hey man, I'm gonna go find a place here. So I went and got a place. I'm sorry, Tim got a place first. And so then I ended up going to find a place. And so we were back and forth to Atlanta for a couple of years, and then finally just ended up moving completely out here, maybe around like around 2000 actually. Yeah, 2000, something like that. So yeah, that's what brought us, initially
to LA.
Yeah.
Man, so what's your main instrument? Because you said you started organ piano. I know you play guitar.
I started off playing the organ. It's crazy. I actually started off playing the organ before I did piano. And I know that sounds weird, but yeah, I started playing the organ when I was 8, and it was just one of those things that happened. Like I initially was obsessed with the drums. And so, but one day, I was just curious because the organist was playing, and it just seemed like what he was doing was, I don't want to say simple, but it seemed like I could just comprehend what he was doing. So I'm just looking at his hands. I'm looking at the positioning on the keyboard. And I went over to the piano and I was like, oh, that's what he's doing. So then I went to the next chord progression. So I did that through the whole chord progression. Before I knew it, I was playing the whole song. It was Be Grateful from the Hawkins. Be grateful. Yeah, so it's the first song I learned how to play on keys. So anyway, that night I had played the whole song. And I showed my friends. It was like, wait, we didn't know you could play. I was like, I didn't either. Next night, I did the same thing at rehearsal. Back and forth and looking at, and before I knew it, I learned like 2 or 3 songs in one night. I'm like, wow, this seems simple. So then the next week I did the same thing. Probably within another 2 weeks, I was playing for our kids' choir. My mom was like, why didn't you tell me you know how to play? I said, Mom, I just started playing. I didn't know. I've always wanted to play drums. I started off playing drums. So before you know it, and so then by the time I turned 10, that was the year my dad bought me my first piano. And the church put me on payroll when I was 10. So I was making $10 a week. So this is $10 a week in the 80s. Or in the early, in 82. Well, no, 81. So then when I turned 12, they started paying me $50 a week. And then I think by the time I was 15, they was paying me $150 a week. That was good money for a teenager back in the early 80s, And so yeah, man, that's how that started.
And then when did you go to guitar? When did you pick guitar?
Oh, this is how so keys was my main instrument. After I didn't start playing guitar till after we were living in Atlanta. The reason why is we initially started off using this guy, Tommy Martin.
No, Tommy.
You know Tommy?
Tommy's
okay,
dope.
so Tommy, great, great musician, very well-rounded, versatile, and he was our session guitarist.
Got you.
So, true story. This is actually a couple stories in one. Madonna ended up coming in town to work with Dallas. We actually met with Madonna's manager at the time, who was Freddie DeMann and Guy Osiri. We had already met with those guys out here in LA because we were doing a lot of work with Maverick. We worked on a couple of their artists. And so Freddie was like, man, we gotta get her down there to work with you guys. You guys doing some cool stuff, blah, blah, blah. So next thing we know, Madonna's in town working with Dallas. And so Dallas, I love Dallas, but Dallas just eased us on out of that project. He took over the project, that was it. And so anyway, she heard Tommy in our session one night. She snatched him up out the session, and she ended up going on tour. Tommy didn't come back to Atlanta for the next 5 years.
Wow.
She took him on tour, and it changed his life, changed everything in his life.
Wow.
And so we didn't have a guitarist no more. So I'm like, hey man, I'm gonna teach myself how to play guitar. I always fiddled around with it here and there. I'm gonna go buy myself a guitar. So I went and bought myself a guitar. Face I just came out with when can I see you again? I said I'm gonna teach myself how to play this song. And so I taught myself how to play it, probably like in a couple days. And so it's funny because my girlfriend at the time, she's my son's mother, Michelle, she's like, wait a minute, how did you know when did you start playing guitar? I said, I just started, kind of like with the keys. I was like, I started playing it. And so then from that moment, I kind of just like, that's all I played was guitar. Wow. And so I was in my 20s when I learned how to play guitar, man. And so I'm still learning.
Come on, man, you play real nice. Let me ask you this: did you write the John B. joint? They don't know. Did you write that from guitar, or did you write that from a different? How did that sound?
Actually, that is actually a sample.
Okay.
From there, on that recording, actually, I didn't even play guitar on that. I wasn't playing guitar yet, right there.
Oh wow.
That's Tommy playing on that. I played the Rhodes on that and some keys, whatever. And Tim did the beat. Tim played the bass line on it. And we both kind of like sprinkled some stuff in. But yeah, I played the Rhodes on that primarily. And the three of us wrote it together. And so yeah, Tommy played on that. Now, to answer your question, no, it wasn't written from it started off with that sample though. We built the track around that. We built the track around there.
So dope, man. So dope. Just a dope record. I like the simplicity, the rawness of it. The way it knocks, the chord progressions, everything is dope, man, about that record. But now the Tamir record is funny because you guys are playing like keyboard guitar on that record primarily, right?
Yes.
So what was that all about?
Because at the time, I think that was one of those keyboards had a really good, nice guitar. I want to say the Proteus. So one of them had like a guitar thing that we would always find ourselves going to. Using the keyboard, but we also learned that it kind of sounded good with real guitars too. So Into You, I just did some. What did I do? Yeah, because Tim played the keyboard guitar on that, and I played the other guitar, yeah, and so acoustic, yeah.
Such a great song, man. Still. To this day, man. Listen, bro.
Thank you, man.
Listen, man. I didn't mean to hold you this long, man. But that story, man.
It's quite all right, man.
Bob, your story, man, is just phenomenal, man. It just, and I just hope everybody. Once again, I gotta say this again, y'all. Please, there's gonna be a link, so go check that link out, and please follow these brothers and know who you're listening to this whole time, because it's gonna blow your mind. So let me ask you this, bro. Let me ask you this before we get out of here. What are you doing these days, Bob? What are you doing? Are you still producing? Are you still active in it? Are you and Tim still producing records together? What are you guys doing?
No, we don't. We no longer work together. We haven't worked together in a while. It's been years, probably about close to 10 years, whatever. And you know, I'm doing a lot of, honestly, because like, you know, I work from home now, and so, you know, I which I love, and everybody that knows me knows I'm always home. So I'm doing a lot of, I just try to do like some different things here and there. Like I don't do as many projects as I used to, you know, back when me and Tim were working together, whatever. And because I have a lot of other things that keep me busy. And a few things, you know, endeavors aren't necessarily even in the music industry. But what I do in terms of music, like right now I'm working on a project. It's not even a project per se. This is more like a corporate thing. Like a friend of mine has his own very, very successful design firm and builds dream homes, like builds some of the most amazing homes in the world. And so he asked me to curate some music for his website. And so, and I've been, you know, things, it's almost the equivalent of doing some scoring, this particular thing, because it's a different approach to music, but it still allows me to be creative in such a different space. And then in a different, you know, it's just very, I've been really enjoying doing that. And so then I also do, you know, I do projects here and there, like, I collaborate with some young cats here and there. They might call me, hey man, you know, I want to do some records with you. I'm like, yeah, it's work. Because that's something that I wish I would have done more of years ago, like even when me and Tim were working together, because we wrote and produced everything that we did. So we didn't do a lot of collaborating with people. And that's one thing that I wish we would have done more. Even though I don't have any regrets about our career or whatever, I think that we said everything that we needed to say as a team, you know, creatively. I think we did that. And I think we accomplished what we set out to do when we initially drove down to Atlanta. So in that respect, you know, I feel very, you know, happy with what we did and blessed. I feel very blessed that people still resonate with the music we did, you know, 25 years ago, 30 years ago. And so, so yeah, man, I do a lot of mentoring, which is very dear to me. You know, and it's something that I even, because like I'm such an introvert, you know, but I love mentoring and sharing any kind of information or wisdom that I've gathered or learned, you know, on my path. I try to pass it on, man, and you know, and I still do some projects here and there. But I'm curating music for my friend's company right now and doing that. And, you know, I'm always working with other producers on like some things here and there. And so, and then I might, you know, I've been creating a lot of music with my son lately because he's a young up and coming musician, producer and everything as well. And so, I'm doing a lot of that. And I'm doing a lot of, honestly, man, doing a lot of studying, man. I'm still such a student, man. Like, you know, I've been listening to a lot of Count Basie lately. A lot of those cats, Duke Ellington, because I want to know why were they brilliant? And it's been one of the most humbling experiences of my life in terms of, you know, music. Is like going through these guys' catalog of music and like all that went into just one recording. You know, that all that rich, wonderful music that they created, like, it's mind-blowing, actually. And you hear these guys' names all the time, like, oh, yeah, Count Basie, oh, yeah, Duke Ellington, blah, blah, blah. Like, but when you really sit and listen to what these guys did back in the 30s, and like, because you'll hear a certain chord progression and you think it's new. Man, these cats was doing stuff back then, you like, what? Like... mind-blowing stuff, man. And so, you know, I even go back and listen to a lot of stuff that Claire Fisher did. Claire Fisher, you know who Claire is. We had the honor of working with him before he passed away, man. And so I was listening to some stuff from Claire yesterday from the 60s. I'm like, what? Like some of his piano albums? I'm like, Claire Fisher, like anybody, y'all please go look up anything that Claire Fisher has done. But anyway, so I still do a lot of studying, man, and you know, when certain projects come along, you know, that I find interesting, like I'll do it. And so, but yeah, I just try to be available for people that reach out to me for information or for guidance or advice. And I've been really enjoying that, man. So,
man, I'm doing a lot of this. I don't know. I know people like D is doing a lot of this because, dude, I'm just once again, man, I'm amazed at your conversation. And let me say this to you, man. I'm doing this because, dude, you are truly, truly, truly blessed, man. Cats like yourself,
thank you.
You're truly blessed. And the reason why I say this, man, is because, you know, you're doing what you want to do now. You're not doing this music now to chase a check. You're not doing this music now because you have to in order to eat and get that cheeseburger. You're in a position, you know, God has blessed you to be in a position, man, to where everybody wants to be, man, myself included. And dude, I can't tell you enough, man, how if you didn't inspire nobody, bruh, I don't give a damn, because you inspired me.
Wow,
I promise you, man, on everything in my life, man. Dude,
I appreciate that, brother.
You've inspired me, man.
Coming from you, man, you have no idea. I really appreciate that, man. And thank you, brother. Like, because you helped pave the way for guys like us, man. And so, thank you, brother. Appreciate that, man. You and Chucky, and man, the same thing with Chucky, man. We knew Chucky had something coming out, and I think that's how we first got on you, was when listening to some Chucky stuff, or you guys would be on the same projects. And then Tim, I just remember Tim like, hey man, this dude DOA, hey, this dude he that cat, man. I'm telling you, you see his name or anything, you pick it up.
Wow.
And so yeah, man, you was a huge inspiration for us starting off, man. Like, because it encouraged us to find ways to still have musicianship in there, but still be commercial. And that was a great challenge for us.
But you guys were two of the best at it, man. You guys were two of the best. And I think that's why the world is going to be drawn to your music forever, because your music got plasma in it, man. And it's going to stick and it's going to live, because it's music that's hitting the heart and soul. That's why everybody, I'm going to let this brother go, but everybody please go look that link that I sent you. And I promise you, you're going to appreciate every inch of this interview. You're going to watch it over and over again, just so you can hear every inch of this word, the words that's coming out this brother's mouth, man. We are listening. I'm really proud, man, to say that this is my friend and my brother. And man, you've inspired you guys. Your music is going to live, Bob. It's going to live, man. It's going to live, bro. Your legacy is so powerful now, man. Now you can, at your young age, where you are right now, at your young age, man, you can enjoy life. You can go up to Yosemite, man. You can do whatever you want, man. Listen, man. Bob, before I get out of here, man. Okay, wait, I gotta ask you this question. You got 4 producers you're gonna put on Mount Rushmore. Who are your 4 top producers of all time?
Oh man. Oof. Okay. That's hard, man. That's tough, man.
I love this question because if I'm talking to bass players, I ask about bass. If I'm talking to drummers, if I'm talking to producers. See, I can ask you about, keyboards, guitar, drums. But since you like one of the greatest producers of our generation, I gotta ask you. And I know it's an impossible question to answer because there's so.
I'm always getting anxiety trying to answer that. Okay, 4 producers. Okay, so I gotta say Jimmy and Terry, and so they count as one.
They count as one, exactly.
So I gotta say Jimmy and Terry, and I gotta say LA and Face. I have to do that out the gate. I have to.
Okay.
Okay, so now from there, that only leave you with 2. I gotta say Jay Dilla. Hip hop, like for anybody that know about Jay Dilla, like what he was able to do, like just so crazy. but I had to say Jay Dilla. And wow, that's hard, man. One more. That would be. That's tough. I wanna say, I know Claire wasn't a producer like that, but Claire was like, you know what I mean? It was like he was in such a other world. Like, okay, so I can't include Claire, but okay. I would say probably Quincy. I would say Quincy. I would say Quincy, J Dilla, LA Face, Jam, and Lewis.
You know what? I see why you, the type of producer you are, because all of those producers that you name, I hear and see everything you guys who you are. And you go ahead, brother, go ahead.
But I was gonna say I had to say honorable mention. I gotta say Mike Brooks.
Ooh,
because his influence as far as just speaking for myself, like I modulated so much off of him, like. Pretty much every time I would sit at the keyboard, I would say, how would Mike Brooks play this? Like, I naturally did that without trying, because his approach to playing was so dope to me.
Agreed.
And so undervalued, I feel like.
Agreed.
And I know a lot of work him and Fred did together.
Yeah.
So I always had to say Mike and Fred together, like, as an honorable mention. Like,
hey, man, I get it. I totally get it, man. I totally get it, man. Totally get it. Yeah, man. But you know what, man? Speaking of Claire, you can put Claire as one of your most favorite arrangers. Next time I ask you about your arrangers, man, because Claire is definitely definitely be my number one, man. He's definitely, I'm a Claire Fisher fan, man. Have been for a lot of years, man. Listen, man. Dude, thank you so much, brother. I appreciate you, man. I love you. Hey, man, tell everybody how they can reach you, man.
Very simple. I am Bob Robinson on Instagram, and yes, I try my best to answer all the messages on there as quickly as I can. And so, yes, reach out to me, say what's up. I'm gonna hit you back, and yes, thank everybody for supporting and everything through the years, and it's been such a fun ride, and I'm enjoying it, and I just want to say thank you, and I feel blessed, and thank you for having me here today. And, again, thank you for all the inspiration that you provided for us, man. And so, yeah, man, that's really it. Thank you again for having me, man. I'd love to do it again.
Man, dude, we're going to do it again. We're going to do it a whole lot, because when we be talking, man, we're going to be talking for hours. We're going to be talking for hours. Because I want to, hey, Bob, I'm the type of dude that can just kick in and hear all the stories, man. I want to hear everything. We're going to go back and forth. We're going to trade off.
Yes, we'll do another one. More stories.
Hey, man, I appreciate you, man. I love you, man, and thank you.
Love you too, brother.
Thank you so much, man. I can't thank you enough. Everybody, please go check that link so you guys can really understand what this man and his partner did for our American history of R&B music. I promise you, y'all won't be disappointed. Y'all give it up for my brother, Mr. the one and only, Mr. one half of the production super producers team, Mr. Bob Robinson.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you, man. Love you, brother.
Love you too, man.
DOA playlist. Let's get the funk out.